welcome back to the Men's Couch, a show about men's mental health. I'm Alex Hennon, and I'm here joined by
Micah Blackwell.
Angie.
Yeah, and welcome back. We are at the 5th episode of Season 5. Can't believe I'm still saying that. Season 5, guys.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I'm very excited about the topic today, which Micah's gonna say later. But before we start, as always, don't forget to like and follow us and subscribe to Men's Couch on both Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. So, without any further ado, Micah.
Also, we have 100 subscribers now, which is surprising.
We do.
We just hit our 100
Thank you, guys.
subscriber mark.
And it's only gonna get better from here.
Yeah,
truly.
Before we dive in, when I mentioned the topic, what came to mind?
Of what?
The topic that we're doing today.
Of
because you said you're excited to dive in. So what?
Yeah.
Why are you excited?
Do you want me to reveal the?
Well, okay. So the topic today is performance faith and performance Christianity.
Yeah. And
how that affects believers and in the church. And I wanted to bring it up, but why were you I'm curious now.
Oh well, mostly because for me, I've been having a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
About that part of my life, and it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a really long time. So hopefully some fellow listeners can relate to that, and through this episode, be able to really think about that. And
So on the retreat, so me and my buddy Nicholas, that's also on the podcast, when we went on the retreat, we noticed that how how it's sometimes how believers sometimes say, well, I just need to try harder. I need to try harder to get closer to God, or I need to just do better. I need to pray more. I need to read my Bible more. And we noticed how that the sense of trying harder with our relationship with God, it creates more of a barrier, because when we look at our relationship with God as more of I need to perform for God, I need to do all these things for God. That's not really that's not really a genuine relationship with Him. And I think what people really want is genuine intimacy with God. And maybe growing up, it's been taught that when you've went to people they probably went oh, you just need to pray harder, you just need to read more, and praying and reading the word, those are all good things. But when people look at it as a thing a checklist or a thing to off a to-do list, then that's we compartmentalize our relationship with God, and we can't have that intimacy that we desire, and sometimes we feel unsatisfied in our faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Angie?
I feel there's a lot of I feel the performative, the need to be performative, in your faith doesn't necessarily come from God itself. I feel people have given it that, because I feel when we really think about our faith and our relationship with God, I feel it's a very low percentage of people that think that just by themselves they need to be performative. I feel the performative comes in when you're with a group of people, and then everybody starts talking about
this is what I'm doing.
I read 5 chapters of the Bible a day, and then you're am I not doing enough? And that's where it comes in. I feel when it's you and God, that's where you're the most your most realist self. And I feel there is no need to be performative. I feel the performativeness comes when you're in a social setting, when people are all it's the circle thing of oh, I read this, oh, I do this, I pray 10 times a day, I read 5 chapters a day.
It's a badge of honor, and it's oh my gosh, I have a better relationship with God than you, or it's just it becomes more of
they don't say that. They will never say that directly, but that's kind of how they're trying to make it seem. And I feel it kind of when you're in a group setting with people, people, that question of like, oh, like, do you read your Bible enough? Like, are you doing those questions? For me, like, I've always seen it as like putting someone on the spot, and that's not necessary. Like, what is like, what are you trying to accomplish in shaming people for not reading enough, or not praying enough, or not meditating in God enough? Like, yeah, it's good to have a relationship with God and be like faithful, but when you're like playing the comparison game, like with other Christians, like, oh, like, how long have you been doing this,
a member of this church, how long have you been,
like, have you read the Bible, like, the whole thing, like, 5 million times? And it's like, okay, like, let's tone it down a bit. And I feel like there's a lot of, like, I feel like there can be a bit of hypocrisy when it comes to that subject of, like, oh, like, I do this. And it's like, okay, but how much of what you're reading are you actually applying to your life?
How much? Yeah, because it's just, so I'm just going to say it straight. I don't do devotionals. I don't do that stuff. I don't, personally, I don't, what's up?
What exactly is that?
So when I was on the fall retreat, like everyone, like there was like an announcement, like, hey, like time to do, like have devotional time. Basically devotionals are like, they, like at the retreat, it's like you get like the set of questions that you're supposed to read like a chapter or like a passage in the Bible and like get, like reflect on that. I don't know if you've heard of devotionals.
Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally have not like trauma, but like PTSD with like this whole comparison game, because usually it's accustomed a lot, especially like in Hispanic churches, where you'll have like your kids group, and you will be given a verse or a few to memorize by the next Sunday. And especially like when I was younger, it was like a thing where like the teacher would shame you like every Sunday if you were one of the students that didn't learn their verse, or they would like make fun of you with like, and it wasn't as like a malicious thing, but it was more of like an embarrassment thing. And I remember that my parents would sometimes be like, okay, like, you can't do this until, like, you have your verse memorized.
Oh, my goodness.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I was I was usually the youngest in the group, and I would always have that, like, memorized.
Yeah, mentality.
Because of, like, the pressure of, like, oh, like, you need to memorize. And they were like, oh, like, if your teacher tells us that, like, you didn't get one of the words right, like, you need to have it memorized.
Yeah.
And mind you, like, some people, like, in, like, at church would be like, oh, like, she has her verses memorized. And my parents were like...
She knows her stuff.
And my parents were like, she doesn't even know how to, like, read yet, but she has it memorized. And it's like... And now, like, looking back onto it, it's like, how much do you actually grasp?
That's true. That's a good point. Actually, I kind of relate to that in this sort of way, because, well, not in the exact same sense.
Yeah.
My parents every night would read me like the Green Eggs and Ham Dr. Seuss book, and I knew it so well because they would read it to me every single night, so that I would read it to other people. I would read it out loud, and everyone's like, and people go up to my parents and be like, "Hey, your child can read very well."
Yeah.
But it wasn't me reading; it was just me remembering how it went the whole time. So I wasn't really reading. I was just like memorizing the whole thing, if that makes sense.
See, I only watched the cartoon.
I forget there's a cartoon of it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's a cartoon.
I watched the cartoon. But, yeah, like, I don't do devotionals. I just have a personal, like, belief that I don't do. I don't think that, for me personally, it doesn't encourage an authentic relationship with God, because... And I feel like I was the only person that didn't do it on the retreat. Like, I just went and, like, I just sat and being quiet. Because, like, for me, like, that's not, like, approaching your relationship with God as, like, so for 30 minutes a day, I'm going to set aside a time and do these devotionals. That's not, like, for me, that's not real. It's not, like, it's just coming with... It doesn't, like, allow... You're kind of coming with an agenda. And my... so, Kelly, our campus minister,
The goat.
The goat. She was like, yeah, don't come to the Bible with an agenda, but come with an open mind.
Yeah.
And that like helped me to really see where the disconnect people can have with the Bible sometimes is because we're coming with an agenda. Like, I'm going to read this, I need to do this.
Yeah.
A plus B, I need to do that. But that's not how God works.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you might come with like a desire, like a searching or seeking in the Bible, but
Yeah.
sometimes you're not. Like, what if you just don't get that? Like,
And I feel like there should be more room for grace, like especially like in the Christian community, like just because, and there's people that genuinely do like doing that stuff.
yeah,
Like my grandmother, she'll like pray in the morning for like an hour and like read, but she like, you can tell that she likes doing that, and she does
Yeah.
not doing, and she also doesn't go
Yeah.
around like, oh yeah, like I do this, like I do this,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's more, I feel like when
Is she
something
still
is
alive?
sincere, yes,
okay. I was
it's
gonna-
more private, like it's,
Yeah.
you don't need to be showy. And there's a verse that actually sticks, like, and has to do with this topic. It's Matthew 6:5, and it reads, "And when you pray, do not be like hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full." So basically what that means is that, you know, real, like, genuine worship, which is like reading your Bible or
Right.
singing, you know, worship songs, that sincerely is private. Like it's going to be private,
Yeah.
and it's not done for the purpose to like brag about it. And like it says, the people who do like these showy acts, they have received their reward in full. So that means that the
human praise.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, see, I'm glad you mentioned that. That was also like mentioned on the retreat. Like, you can't like we do these things with a genuine heart, and we can't, like, everyone has their different way of doing it, and we shouldn't feel like the sense of guilt, like, oh my gosh, I must not like be as close with God, I must not have like a good relationship with Him because I don't do A, B, and C. It's like, no, like everyone has their different ways of being in relationship with God. Like for me, sometimes for me, like I don't do devotionals, but you'll find me like I'll just randomly say, hey, I'm going off campus, I'm going in nature, like I'm journaling in nature. Like that's just
I've seen
that's
it. Yeah.
that's me. Like that's not everyone. That's not everyone does that. And I was looking at I was researching like the history of devotionals. Devotionals aren't like actually in the Bible, but they're like kind of from like the idea of devotionals comes from like 19th century Western culture, like Western individualistic society, because when like industrialism, when that kind of started rising up, people became more quote unquote like busier, so they felt that they needed to instill like devotionals because of we're moving from an agrarian society to a more like industrialized society with like we need like this sort of scheduled time. Like I feel like having the scheduled time with the idea of a scheduled time with God doesn't like make sense to me all the time.
It makes it
because-
sound like it's a business meeting. Like, oh, I have
Yeah,
a
like,
business
that's
meeting with God
not-
at 5, and it's like, do you really want that to be like your relationship? Like,
yeah.
I feel like when I think about, you know, our friend group and stuff, like,
Mhm.
do we like months ahead of time be like, okay, we're gonna do this at 5 p.m. We're gonna
No.
do this. We're gonna chat about life at 5 p.m.
No.
Like, are we like
No,
that?
that's not how. Like,
And I feel like that's the way that we should also approach like God. Like, obviously, there's a level of respect that you give,
yeah, and reverence.
but it's not like it doesn't have to be so like business meeting ish.
Right.
Yeah, and like I've talked with friends that struggle like so much like in their walk with God, with feeling like, oh, I feel so guilty, I feel so bad that I haven't been like reading my Bible as much. I haven't been doing things. I haven't been like going to church. It's like these doing things, like going to church, and I'm just like kind of taken aback by it, because I guess like for me, I have a unique story. I didn't really grow up necessarily with that mindset, even though I did struggle like for a time in my life with what's called scrupulosity. It's like look it up. I don't feel like explaining it right now. But like even though I struggle with that, I didn't like really grow up necessarily in an environment where I felt like I needed to like do things for God. Like my mom, like I love my mom. Like she's the reason that I'm. I wouldn't say like she's the reason, but like God definitely sent her, because like growing up, she told like me and my sister, like, listen, I want you guys to have your own faith. I'm not gonna like tell you to come to church. Like I'm not like gonna do that. I'm just gonna allow you to allow God to draw you guys to Him. And like eventually that happened through like through God drawing me to Him. It wasn't like you need to go to church, you need to like read your Bible. Like she was never like that. And I guess like I'm like, now that I look back on it, I'm like thankful, because like I guess like some people grew up in a more like more legalistic, more performance based environment, and I'm just trying to like even though like I didn't grow up with that, I did like for a time struggle with that mindset of especially when I first became a believer. Like I struggled with, I need to read my Bible like a certain number of times, or like when there was a time where I kept like doing the sinner's prayer like over and over again. I was like 12 or 13. Like I was like doing it over and over again. The same prayer I did like when I was like saved, because like I guess I didn't feel saved, so I kept doing it over and over again. But it's like that mindset of like that's not like God. I feel like God was looking at me like, listen, but Micah, listen, buddy, that's not how this relationship works. You don't need to keep doing that. And I feel like we do things like going to church or whatever out of guilt instead of like a genuine desire to like grow deeper with Him. And there's no like this idea of like I'm not like as close with God. I'm not like as close with God. I'm not that close with God. Like that's now I see like that's not actually how God sees us. Like God is always there for us.
Right.
We might feel less close with Him, but that doesn't mean we are any further or like further away from Him, or that's not how that works. And like I didn't really start to think like that until more recently. I'm like, wait a second, like God is always here. He's not like distancing it. Like He doesn't do that to Himself. We have that like mindset based on our like performance like idea, and we need to get out of that performance idea. And it's driven by a lot of fear. I feel like we fear that God is closer to us or further away from us based on what we do. But that's not how God is. And we need to realize that once we realize that, we'll have a deeper relationship with Him, and we'll feel more led to like a desire to get to know Him through His Word and through church and through community. Once we let go of those mindsets.
Yeah. I know. I agree. Having a good relationship with God is very important. I feel like comparing other people to their relationship with God, is pretty intimidating. I feel sometimes.
But that's the thing. Like, if I can interrupt you for a second.
Oh, she's interrupting.
No, like, you're comparing people's relationship to God, but you don't know their relationship. You know only what they tell you.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's actually
Are they going to be like, oh yeah, like I read 5 chapters every day, but I forgot Monday? Like, they're not going to tell you that.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So in my guys group today, like we talked about like how like for the first time at the fall retreat, some people were held accountable. Like for me, I opened up to like Jacob and you don't know Alejandro. I open up to them, and I'm just like talking about like stuff that I haven't really told anyone. It just felt like so new to me, because when we like in Christian community, that's like the community with fellow believers where we're supposed to be like the most vulnerable, we're supposed to be like the most open, but maybe we don't feel like we can because we're not being always honest about our relationship with God, and too, in a sense where people feel like intimidated, people feel like, oh, I can't, like, this person looks super spiritual, I can't like go to them like if I'm like wrestling with doubt or anything.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Like, I feel like sometimes people feel intimidated by that. Other people, when in reality, your relationship with God is like always is like every person's relationship with God is always gonna be unique in some way. No one's relationship with God is ever the same.
Yeah.
I feel like people need to express that more, not only for themselves but for others. That way, you would have a better relationship with God through that.
So, when have you felt like intimidated by like other people's relationship with God? Was it like in church, or like was it just?
I mean, just in general. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess. Like I would say, like as far as that, like, yeah, I feel like just we might look at some people and say, oh, this person's more spiritual or they're more this, but that's not like that's like you said. Everyone's relationship with God is different, and everyone experiences Him differently. Like, not everyone's going to go out in nature like on a random time during the day and like just go out and talk to God. That's not like how everyone is.
Yeah.
And not everyone's going to do a devotional. Different
doesn't mean bad.
Yeah, not everyone's going to do a devotional, and that's like why I felt like on the retreat, like I felt like I'm not doing this. I'm doing this devotional. Like I'm not. That's not how I experience God, and I want it to be more real. I don't want it to be like limited to like a set number of questions. Like I get the whole I get like the why behind it, to encourage believers to dive deeper, but I feel like if God isn't limited to just devotionals, He's not limited to that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like when we have those mindsets, because we're human and we compartmentalize things, we put things in boxes, so we feel like, okay, like I can only, like, we do the 30 minutes a day, or we do like only on Sundays thing, because we sometimes see our like relationships with that like on earth, but we have a hard time understanding that God is always accessible. So we have a hard time seeing that He's always here. He's always like we can't even grasp that. So I think it's easier for us to put it in the 30 minutes a day, like the devotionals, because we can't fully understand that He is always here. And I think when that happens, so when we compartmentalize Him in that way, sometimes we unintentionally sort of limit our understanding to the point where we can't we don't feel like, oh, I can come to God like right now I'm taking an exam, or right now while I'm driving. Like we can't understand that. And I feel like, are we, and this is like, yeah, I'm like, I've been thinking about this like a lot, because I struggle with this personally, with the mindset of performance Christianity. I've struggled with that like at various different points in my life, but I just think over time God has to show you that like I'm not limited to this situation. I'm not limited to like 30 minutes a day. And just like when you mentioned that, like when you mentioned the whole like the whole quizzing on the Bible verses, I'm just like, that's like, because like a lot of us grew up with that mindset of, like, so what's the verse of the week, or what's the verse of like, what do you remember about this verse? Like that's like I get the memorization, but I can memorize a lot of things that don't have much meaning. Like it has to have meaning. I have to connect with it, and like God sometimes leads us to a scripture that we feel that we connect more with, and what's being like, than what we feel we need to memorize. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like God is literally there 24/7
Mm.
for you. You know? And I don't think people really, I mean, really fully realize that,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. If you're going through a tough situation, you know, hey, take a quick prayer.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think it's very interesting how like Christian spaces for us, the problem is never God, but like
no.
how we've kind of been building that like performative
Mm-hmm.
idea. Like in anything like this whole performative, not once will God be mentioned. It's always like, oh, like people have grown up this way, we've grown up this way, to like think that we have to memorize like 5 verses a week and say them all right word by word. But it's like how much, it's like always us. Like it's never like, oh, God told us here that we have to do it like this and do it exactly like this, and if someone doesn't do it like this, we have to shame them for not doing that. Like it's never God the one who's placed like all these limits and boundaries and rules for how we have to like be closer to him.
Yeah, I think that's why people, like, there's some people who they kind of distance themselves from religion, the church and stuff.
Yeah.
It's because of those traditions.
I've personally like known people who like grow up that way because their parents like force them to go to church every Sunday, wake up early, get dressed, memorize like 5 verses a week, do that same thing on Wednesday nights, do the same thing. And then they like grow up and they're at an age where they can make their own decisions, and they no longer want to know anything about God. They don't want to go to church. They grow a resentment to even the idea of the Bible and of God because we've enabled like that performativeness from a young age. I don't even think a lot of people realize like how much that's actually normalized.
Yeah, and I think we've unintentionally led people away from the church because of our emphasis on that, how much we're doing for God, that people feel that if they don't do those things, then they cannot be a child of God. They can't, like, people think I have to, like, they will ask me, like, do I need to go to church to be a believer? Do I need to do this to be a believer? And that's, like, God's not saying, he's not saying you have to do this, that to be a believer. Like that's not how, it's not how it is. Oh, this reminds me. I played a game with my, my summer campers, in this over the summer. So we played a game. So, we kind of like had a game. So I would, there would be 2 people that would kind of be like the Pharisees, and they would joke with the other kids. The game was like, they would make up rules to become a Christian. So some of them was like, you can't have long hair, you can't have like, you can't have Crocs. It was just a game. It wasn't like, you can't like wear pink or whatever. It's just like weird, like crazy stuff. But it was like I wanted to show them like how sometimes we create those sort of barriers of people. Between people and God, that we feel that I need to do this so that I can be good enough for God. Like the idea of coming as you are is very foreign to people.
Yes.
Coming.
Okay, so with my parents, I grew up, in a Christian household.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of things, and that come as you are sticks with me a lot because it sticks with me a lot. Like we've been in communities where it sounds crazy when you said it. You were like, yeah, like we made rules, and they were like,
like we just
don't
made
wear
them
pink
up.
or don't wear pants. But whether you believe it or not, there is still churches that really have like rules of like, oh, you can't dress this way, like women have to dress a certain way, like women should be in dresses. There's churches that still operate that way.
Do you mind me asking if you've experienced that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So in Utah there's a lot of Mormon churches, right? But it's they have different beliefs than what, Baptist denominations will have.
Yeah. And we're not on this podcast, we're not like talking about other people's beliefs.
It's not about denominations, but it's just so you understand, because there's shortages with non-denominational churches and Baptist churches, which they're very similar. So, like, there's been years where, like, my parents and I will be looking, like, for a church to be gathered at. And we've, like, stumbled into churches like that where they had, like, a winter retreat, like a fall retreat, but it's, like, basically the church has, like, a rented out space, cabin space, and they'll do, like, the Sunday service there, the weekend service there. It's usually, like, the weekend of Labor Day, and they, like, gave us a rule flyer, like, women cannot wear pants even if they're going camping. What? Men have to wear, like, formal pants even when they're going hiking, no shorts. And my dad was like, yeah, no.
That's first of all, that's hot. That's not good for certain other things. It's like
yeah, even if it's not hot, like, it's
that's
you
still
can't wear
like,
pants. Like, you're telling me that we have to wear, like, and obviously, like, my dad is very, very stubborn when it comes to those things. So what they do is if you don't follow the rules, they won't let you, like, serve.
Oh Lord, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's not a denominational thing. It's not that. It's just under the same guise of, like, come as you are.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously, like, a pair of pants is not going to make you lose decorum. Like, you're still covered up. Like, it's not.
Yeah. And also, like, and I think that's why people might feel that I can't come to God, because maybe through human brokenness that they've been given a version of God that's not really who God is. I feel like we can all relate to that. Like, yeah, I feel like we've been given, like, this way of God. I'll share my, like. Do you want to go first?
Of what?
Like, of, like, experiences that you've, like, been given of God that's not really God, but that's, like,
how do you go first for this one?
So for me, like, so my dad isn't a believer, but I didn't realize this until, like, coming to college, that my, like, relationship with my dad kind of shaped how I view God. And I've, like, for the longest time, I viewed God as, like, this kind of distant, judgmental figure that that's not who he is. And it didn't take a long while for me to, like, through, like, other, like, mentoring relationships that I've had with people that I've developed through college and other ways, to really see, like, that God is a loving Father that wants you to come to him. Like, for example, like, for me, like, right now, like, in my, like, walk with God, I didn't really feel comfortable coming to God about certain things, because I'm just like, yeah, I don't want you, like, I don't want, like, I don't know, like, I don't know if you, like, anyone else would understand that, but I just felt like I couldn't, like, always, like, come to him for certain things. But more recently, like, I've kind of been coming to him, like, for, like, everything. But that's because I've seen God through other people. Like, we don't realize that how much of our relationships on earth can mirror how we see God, because he created us for that. He created us, even though, like, yeah, God is still God, whether we have people around us or not, but we don't see that why we have relationships is so that we can see God. We can see God in, like, especially, like, in how, like, in his spirit. So on the flip side, though, my mom, like, I've learned a lot about God's character through how my mom is, and how, like, compassionate she is, how patient she is, how, like, how graceful she is. Like, I've seen those characteristics of God. But I think our experiences, like, whether it's through church, because like we have to realize that people are broken and they're going to like there's instances where they shame you for not like reading a verse or whatever, and like we don't take into account like that affects how you see God. Like if someone is like shaming you for like not reading a verse or not going to church or whatever, then we see that that's how God is. Like God is probably, he's shaming me for not like, or he's like angry with me that I haven't read a verse or I didn't go to church. Like that's how people see God, and that's can go to like the point of people wanting to turn away or not wanting to come to church because they haven't really encountered God. They've I don't know. I don't want to confuse anyone. So they haven't like encountered, not like they haven't like. I don't know how to word it.
I think there's a difference between being like presented to him versus having an encounter is something entirely different.
Oh. Yeah, like for me, like I've encountered God through my mom, like 100%.
Yeah,
I've encountered him through my mom and other people too. Like I've encountered him through other people, especially like my great grandmother. But that's like an encounter where you see the Spirit of God. You see who God is because they have the Spirit living in them and they're walking by the Spirit, and you can see that. It's like I can't fully explain it. Like you just know, and like for like those maybe the more broken experiences where a person kind of like projected in a more performative Christianity, that's not like that's through their own brokenness. That's human brokenness. Is not like how God sees us. There's a difference between human brokenness and how God is presented versus like who God actually is and how like in his character. And another huge example is my campus minister Kelly. Like I've encountered God. Like I've experienced God through her. I've gotten to see who God really is through her, and like how she takes time to get to know me, and like also like she like her and through sharing her own walk with God and how she has been through it. She's also talked about like experiences where she's been like hurt by like pastors and hurt by other people in the church because of their own brokenness. So our own brokenness has the capacity to affect how people see God. And he knows that. Like God knows that. Yeah. So that's why like we can't say that he's limited to those experiences. And that's why he doesn't want us to limit him in that way. And I think when people are afraid of stepping outside of like the devotionals or like what they've always grown up to know, they're afraid that, well, does that mean I'm not like respecting my relationship with God if I don't do what I've been taught to do or what's been taught by the church? Because it's kind of all they know. That's also why like I've been like this year and like I've been getting more into like reading about Martin Luther, about how he tackled like the Catholic Church at the time, how he said this isn't actually what's in the Bible. Like he like confronted the church with the 95 Theses, because when we add our human rules or like our human perspectives on God, and we add all those things, we go further and further and further and further and further. We go further away from who he actually is. And I think that's kind of why people can be stuck sometimes.
Yeah, like that. No, that's a really good point. Because people adding certain rules, I think, because like the Bible can be interpreted in so many ways.
Yeah,
like one, one quote from the Bible, like so many people can have so many different interpretations of it, which can be definitely good for like for discussions.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes it could be kind of harmful sometimes if people can, interpret. I mean,
It's
there's no wrong way of interpreting the Bible.
yeah.
But I feel like maybe it sometimes could lead to. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think I kind of understand what you're saying. I feel like something that my dad has like, he's very stubborn on, like especially during like men's groups. Like he would always like talk to me about like his men's groups, and I feel like something that a lot of people do, or like a lot of people, it is easy to do, I guess, is when they're giving like an observation about something. Some people will take a verse, and sometimes they won't always give the context of the verse, or it happens a lot, especially when they're reading like Old Testament stuff. They won't. There's a huge difference in context too. It's very important for people to understand, especially if you're new to like the Bible and Christianity. A lot of the context in the Old Testament doesn't necessarily apply anymore, because they were living under the law.
Yeah.
And then God came and died for us and redeemed, a lot of stuff, and that changed everything. Like, we don't have to make sacrifices anymore for him, which is what people who were under the law living during the time of the Old Testament, they had to do a lot of stuff because they were living under that, because Jesus hadn't come yet. So I feel like it's very easy for people to take verses out of context, especially when they don't include, okay, well, there's a whole chapter before that. What does that say?
What's going on, especially the historical time period.
Historical time period is very important, too. Like, explain what was going on in the world at that time. So I feel like it's very easy to do that when people don't include context, or sometimes people will give their own interpretation. That's fine, but be specific about it. Say, hey, this is what the verse says, here's the context, here's what I interpret it, but you interpret it as you will, knowing the context of that, which is what a lot of people don't do, and they give their interpretation as a word for it, which is
as absolute
wrong.
Truth.
Yes.
And I think like another thing, like none of us in this room, we don't want it to be taken out of context. We don't want like someone to say something.
Yeah.
I guess like Angie said this, and like that means this. Like no, like Angie would be like frustrated if I did that. Like she, like no one wants to be taken out of context. But that's how God is. He doesn't want us to do that, like to his word. He doesn't want us to take him out of context. I think another thing too is how people like when people have that guilt / anxious mindset of God, and they like kind of project out, whether it be like a pastor or like whomever, when they like project it onto people, they think like that of these like guilt-driven rules, they'll project it onto people, and like people internalize that. Like it does affect you. And I'm not like, we're not saying like, oh my gosh, like the church is bad. Like that's not like what this podcast is for. It's saying like people's broken lens and interpretation can affect how we see God, and that leads to like, other believers in that way. It doesn't mean that like God isn't still God in those scenarios. It just means that we're just broken, and that's like sometimes how that like comes across. But I think what people really need is truth. I think that's what people are seeking, especially in our generation. People are seeking truth, like desperately seeking truth, and that's what's needed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even if you don't seek it, you need it.
Like I think that's what people really, really need. Like they need to know that, like the truth that, like some people just can't grasp the idea that God loves them. Like even like some believers can't even grasp that. Like.
Or even like they say that they do, but then comments of like, oh, I don't do this enough, oh, I don't do that enough, is like, you don't understand that you don't understand that you feel like he loves you. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like
they haven't internalized that, like within their heart. They haven't been transformed by his love. The concept of God's love is a concept. It's like an idea.
Yeah.
But they haven't like internalized it to let that
Tell the truth in
transform
their life.
their hearts.
Yeah.
And I think that's where there's a lot of disconnect with a lot of believers, is that they know all these things about God. The truth about him, like, oh, he's great, like God has grace for me and he's forgiving, but they haven't internalized that into their heart.
Mm-hmm.
They like, it's like, yeah, and I've like dealt with that too. Like I've dealt with that, like the idea of like God like truly loving you. That's like I've dealt with that, with like my own issues. But I think understanding the concept of God's love, that takes a lifetime to understand. It takes a lifetime.
Yeah, I feel like I don't even know if it's a lifetime. I just feel like you never really get to understand it, or like you do, but I don't know how to explain it, because we always think of God like in a finite way.
We grow into understanding.
Yeah, like it's very difficult to understand it, especially when you're thrown like a lot of performative
Christianity.
Yeah, especially like in the church, there's a lot of that. Like, you'll go in, they'll greet you, and they'll ask how you are. Mm-hmm. And then everyone's like, amen, like, we're doing great. And they probably, like, someone in their family has died, and they're still going to say we're great, like, amen. And it's like, even in the own church, like, there's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of performatism to pretend like you're doing great, because if you're not, people are going to think, oh, like, he's losing faith, like, he's not right with God, and like that's why things are happening.
My gosh, you're showing grief right now.
Oh,
you're not having your faith is not.
Oh my God, no!
Your faith is not strong, sister. That grief,
yeah, it's like, have more faith, and it's like something just happened. Like,
it's like, and then it's just like it trickles down to those small, tiny things are very, like, to me, those tiny things of. Like, if someone opens up about something, like, they'll say, oh, you just need to pray more. Like, that, like, slapping that, like, that answer, I feel like it just reveals that, like, we don't really know how to deal with our own brokenness in the context, in God's light. Like, we don't know that, even though, like, all over the Bible it talks about, like, lament and suffering and going through things. Like, I feel like that's... We don't, like, do we really know, though? Like, I'm, like, asking that now. Now that I'm, like, thinking about it, like, do people know how to, like, grieve or, like, lament? Like, because people think that, like, oh, if I talk about this, then that means, like, I'm complaining, I'm wallowing, or I don't want to feel like I'm, like, too much of a burden, or whatever people say. You know, how people...
To God or other people?
Both.
Well, both, because other people are like, oh, we'll have more faith. You don't have enough faith, or like, you're not right. So then you feel guilt in telling other people, and then, like Micah was saying, sometimes you view God the way that, like, people have kind of portrayed themselves to you. Like, for example, like, if you grow up somewhere where you're conditioned to, like, learn all these verses and stuff like that, you begin to view God as that same way. So then you feel more shame in going to him about these things and being honest with yourself, with other people, and with him about how bad it really is going. So you just never do it.
Yeah, I need to fix myself, then go to God. I need to make sure I have, like, all my, like, spiritual things put together before I go to God. Like, that's just, like, we have, like, that mindset.
And even if you're not together, like, he's the one who puts you together.
Ooh. Yeah.
Dang!
But, like, people don't realize that. Like, I feel like people, like, feel like I need to, like, fix myself, then go to God. Like, I don't even, like, that doesn't really make sense in the context of his grace. Like, he's like, wait a second, no, I came down here to die for a reason, not for you to come fix yourself, and then...
And after he did, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to do anything to earn it. You can't earn it. Even if you try to, you can't.
Mm-hmm. I think because in our human relationships, we experience of
conditional
love as conditional.
Yeah.
We experience that as conditional, so when we have that, we feel like God is like that, because we feel, okay, God is conditional based on like, I've it can even be as down to like I'm accepted into this peer group in middle school if I like do the right thing. Like we have that.
Even like in church, it can be conditional if you don't learn. Like even like with prayer too. Like I feel like there's a huge pressure in prayer. Like when you're asked to pray and you're like, oh shoot. Like I've met people like sometimes in like back when I was back at home, we would have like back there. Oh yeah, for people who like haven't heard me in a while, I'm from Utah. Context is key. Context is key.
This is being recorded in Pittsburgh, PA, guys.
Yeah, so there will be like peer like kids groups or like young adult groups, and sometimes they'll be asked to pray or like, can someone please like close us out in prayer? And sometimes people will have like a lot of anxiety and not knowing how to pray or not praying like their mentors and thinking that you have to use all these big words to pray, and it's like no, you can just be your most authentic self in prayer, because at the end of the day, like that's one of the ways that you're communicating with God. So if you're not being authentic and not being yourself and how you would normally pray, like you're not having an authentic conversation with God.
Yeah, it's like this like sort of impression I need to impress everyone with how like spiritual I sound, and it's like wait a second, no, that's not how God is. But I feel like we do that more so out of like how we're so afraid of how other people are perceived us as how spiritual we are. It's not like how like sometimes it's not even like God in that way. It's like I want to perform spiritually so that other people see me as enough, or that mindset of being enough.
But even that, it's like you do it for people, you don't do it, which is it's like the difference between religion and relationship.
Yeah.
Religion is a set of traditions, a set of how you socially would. It's like a social thing, like a social construct of what a relationship with God should look like. Yeah. But that's like telling you, oh, hey, your friendship with Micah shouldn't look like that. You shouldn't be like that.
It's just like because it's like get me wrong, there is absolute truth in the Bible, yes.
Yeah.
But we make things like we I don't know how to explain. We make these human rules from the Bible, or we make these human barriers.
Yeah.
That are
interpretations.
Not actually, and then that becomes like the whole thing for everyone. Everyone has to. Because
at the end of the day, like that's essentially what a denomination is. Yeah. Like, it's a set of, rules that are interpreted to be a certain way. Like, there's people who think the rapture happened and is gonna happen again. Like, that's not to get into all that stuff, but like, there's people who take different verses and have their own interpretation and then form denominations. It's the same way of like people, like there is like stuff that God tells us to come and do and be like that is different than like, don't get me wrong,
what people say over time in culture, because it changes with culture. Like I'm reading like in like church history of like the time of Martin Luther, how like they use money to say like it was like something with like either money or something, like you have to do something in order to be saved. I'm like looking at like what? Yeah. But it actually like it does exist.
Like they had to do certain amount of sacrifices in the Old Testament to keep like the pureness, because God, like Jesus hadn't come down and he hadn't, given us the ultimate sacrifice, which was himself for us. So there was like, see, that's the thing about context. And that's why like I love my dad, and he'll like tell me, he's like, no, like after I talked to him about it and I was like, hey, like make sure that you include the context. They were living in the time period of the Old Testament. There was a different context. They were under the law. Things were different, you know? And that's where a lot of stuff, like, sometimes it can get a little confusing, especially when people are, like, new and they aren't very secure, in that path. And being thrown with all these things of performative Christianity. Yeah, that.
And I feel like too is because we don't know how to be loved as we are. We don't know how to be loved by God. We don't know how to like accept God's love for us, so we create these because we can. It's like we have a hard time understanding it.
Yeah, because
so we create these quote unquote rules in order for God to accept us, where it's not really like it's not how it is.
And I feel like I guess I understand like why that is. Like in most relationships, like there's usually like something that you feel like you have to do to earn the other person's like like you kind of owe something, because sometimes like in life a lot of relationships can be that way. Like you feel like you owe the other person something, or you owe like a certain amount of whatever, and that's probably how a lot of people view like their relationship with God. Is like, oh, I owe him 5 chapters of the Bible a day. Like I owe him like to be at church like 3 times a week and stuff like that. And it's like, no, like you just no.
There's nothing wrong with that if you do
There's
that.
nothing wrong with
But, like,
that.
If that enhances your, because for some people, that does enhance
like I said,
their relationship with God.
People have different relationships,
But a lot of times
differently.
it's bragged about, and it's like, oh, well, how much do you read a day? Like, do you do that too? And it's
especially like with the like in Western like culture, because I'm like reading history on how like the history of devotionals, and we're just like I'm like kind of sometimes like surprised with that they weren't doing that in the early church. They didn't do like devotionals. They came together and they experienced God through community. They weren't like saying, okay, did you do your 30 minutes? Like because first of all, most people back then, they didn't know how to read. They didn't they didn't know how to read. They didn't they experienced it like through like orally, like they experienced it through hearing it and experiencing it that way. But I feel like now that times have changed, I think in certain instances we've gotten away from that and more into that performance of what are you doing, what did you do this week, like how many times did you journal, what have you, whatever, or go to church or whatever. But I think what people really need is truth. They need to know that God loves them, and they need to know that they can experience God. They don't need someone to affirm their experience of God through these compartmentalized means. Like they don't need someone to say like, did you read your devotional? Like if people everyone has a different experience with God, and they need to know that their experience, like right now I'm talking to JD about this. So I'm talking to him about this, and like he's not like in the place where he wants to go to church, or he's not there yet. So I feel like he's talking about like his experience with God, and I'm like, you know what? That's like completely valid. Sorry, that's completely valid. If like if you experience God through this way, like God isn't limited to only this one means. And I feel like it can, like, if we talk about like how, for me, so like when I was a freshman, I went through like this period of like really deconstructing my faith. When I was a freshman, it's like fall when I was a freshman, and I was like going through how Christians like can sometimes like doubt their relationship with God, but I feel like are we doubting our relationship with God, or are we doubting how we've been taught about God? Because there's like a difference. Like, are we doubting how He's been taught to us? Are we doubting, like, are we questioning? Sorry, yeah, are we questioning how He's been taught to us? Because we can wrestle with doubt in our relationship with God, but at the same time, like sometimes it's not just we're doubting Him, we're doubting, or we're questioning like how we've been taught the faith. Like we're questioning like how He's, and that's what I went through like when I was a freshman. I'm questioning like which I think is normal for like a lot of people because you're on your own for the first time and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm questioning like same thing now with like how I'm questioning devotionals. Is like, wait a second, like this is not in the Bible. Like, this is not something that like was like and like told for us to do. And I think that like that really thinking about it, I think people have to get to a place where they're like ready to think about their faith and ready to question how they've been taught it. I think that's that for me, that opened a doorway to like a deeper relationship with God. And I think like we've become so performative that like people are afraid to even have those questions. People are afraid to like say those questions to other people. So like we like come to like our like Christian community or like our like with brothers and sisters, we're like, I have this question, but like I don't want to say anything because I don't like I don't want to like step on anyone's toes. I don't want someone to say something, but no. And at the retreat, like I think like the pastor said, like that struggle you have or that question you have, like 4 other people have it, and we don't realize that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because your question could be their question.
Yeah.
You know.
And your answer could lead them to their answer too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need to, as a church, we need to be, number one, we need to be aware of our performative mindsets, that we can get stuck in those performance mindsets. We need to understand that, first of all, we need to like understand that, we need to understand grace and how, like, I think people are afraid of grace. I think people are afraid that to let go of some of the stuff that they've been taught because they think that that will. It's like, does that mean I'm rejecting God if I don't do devotionals? Does that mean I'm not a Christian if I don't do devotion, or if I don't do this or whatever? They have that fear. They're afraid to really like come to God with those questions, and I think we need to make space for that. People to have their questions in that.
Yeah.
We also need to make space for people to have their authentic relationship with God, and we need to make space for that because I think the more we push like an idea of God onto them, the more like they're like kind of running the other way, like no, like that's not like
it's like a magnet, like but of the opposite thing, and you're like the more you want to shove that in their face, the farther they push away.
And I think like I've experienced this with like my buddy JD with like I kept like asking him like, hey, do you want to go to church? Do you want to go to church? Like initially, like it came from good intentions. Like I want him to join us, but like over time, I realized like, wait a second, what am I doing? This is not like how God wants me to talk to JD. This is not how like it's not how like he's not in a place where he wants to go to church. And I think like and even like I can do a whole podcast on the concept of church itself because we've gotten that like kind of like I can do a whole podcast on that. We're not going to do that today because like, but yeah, like I've done that, and I needed to like hold myself accountable to like how I like talk to JD because like he's not, that's not like how he's experiencing God right now, and I don't need to push this idea onto him. And I like through that I realized like how I see my own walk with God too. So, do you have any like?
Like what comments or
about that or like just about anything?
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
If someone like you said it correctly, you also did the right thing. Of being like, I'm gonna back up until they want to.
Yeah, because like I stopped. But like sometimes it was like a joke, sometimes it was like Micah, you need to like shut up right now. You need to stop doing that because it's like, but that's what we sometimes do. Like I think that's why sometimes like we draw people like in the other direction because we're like pushing like this, like so like in church we'll be like, oh, you need to go out and make disciples, but Jesus made disciples through relationship. Not through like pushing like this idea onto people.
All his disciples were friends.
Yeah.
So he made disciples through relationship, not through like, if you don't accept Jesus today, you're going to like.
You're
That's
going
not
to
how.
hell. Like, no.
That's not how. Like, that's not
That's
how he did
scary.
that.
That will push them further away. They're gonna be like, we ain't coming back.
But that experience is like very common.
Yeah.
Very common. Like if you like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I can't recall if I've ever experienced that like personally, but like I've known like of certain instances where it's like, if you don't accept the gospel today, if you don't you're going to hell today. Where are you going today? If you don't like, where are you going to go?
Think about where you're gonna go.
Like we're
if something
scaring
happens
people.
tonight and you don't make it home and you die, you're gonna go to hell.
Like that, we're scaring people.
Like, that shit
Yeah,
is
we're
scary.
gonna-
We're
Yeah.
making a God that is like. It's like the freaking
Unapproachable.
Grim Reaper. Like God is not the
Yeah.
Grim Reaper here, people. Like he's not. That's not who he is. And like the Jesus in the Bible that I read is like relationship oriented.
Yes.
He's not like telling people you're gonna go. Like that's not how he is.
Oh.
That's not how God Himself is. So how have we like? Where is this coming from? Like it's coming from our own fears. It's coming from like fear, like human fear and human understanding.
Yes.
So it's like that's another thing too. It's of how we need to talk about that. And like right now, in my men's group, we're experiencing more vulnerability. We're like talking about like being more vulnerable with each other. That whole concept is still new to me of being being vulnerably accountable. And I think we even in those cases, because men specifically have not grown up. Most men, like at least in my experience, haven't grown up with knowing how to vulnerably share like struggles, like of things that are weighing heavily on their hearts. Even though like in the Bible it talks about like coming together in that way. That's not even like, I feel like for a lot of people that's like unheard of. Like they don't even know like what we talk about. I'm going to start talk about like what's been weighing heavily on me, because that's not like. I think that cultural mindset has like affected how we view God and like our relationships around us. Like I'm not going to talk about like this mental health thing that I'm going through because like I gotta be that strong Christian guy who's strong in his faith. Like I can't tell people that I'm actually like don't know what I'm
it
doing.
makes it seem like you don't have faith.
Yeah. I can talk a whole lot about, but I think. Yeah, I think we've touched a lot on this podcast. I'm like, I'm excited for like where this conversation could go in future episodes. So,
Yeah.
And Jay just called me.
You just call me on my cell phone. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
I think that was pretty closing.
That was pretty closing.
Yeah.
Mike always drops the mic.
Yes.
But yeah, I think this was very interesting and very eye-opening. Not only to me, but I think our viewers. So please comment down below. See what you. We really want to hear your thoughts on this.
JD.
Yeah.
Yeah, like JD. I know you're listening.
Bye.
I can see you listening.
Yeah, but to take away from this episode, if you're wrestling with these questions, if you're wrestling like, does God really want me to do like these things like devotionals or whatever? It could be whatever. If you're a believer, non-believer, if you've heard things, if you feel like the performance Christianity like resonates with you, just know that like we hear you, like we understand that this is like an actual problem, but on the other side of the coin, God, if you're having those questions, then that's a sign that God is trying to draw you to Him in a more real and authentic way, and it's a sign that God is drawing you to His love and His grace. So I'll leave off that.
Awesome. All right, guys.
Ending
Well,
summoned.
I think we're gonna end it there. And before we get out of here, like I said, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and follow on all our platforms, Men's Couch and DeWash. Say bye-bye.